I'm joined by John Bolton, the former National Security Advisor to Donald Trump, and of course the author of the dramatic book, The Room Where It Happened. Former Ambassador Bolton, great to talk to you. So look, Donald Trump has said again that fraud has taken place in this election. You're obviously extremely connected to many folk within the White House. What's the reaction from Trump and senior Republican staff to the president's actions since the vote?
Well, I think obviously it's mixed. I think some are going to support whatever he does. Others are privately concerned that he's hurting his own cause. And there are a few lonely souls who think the whole thing is disgraceful, as I do. It's one thing. Every candidate has a right, a First Amendment right, to say what they want about their campaign. Everybody can and should be concerned about fraud. But for the President of the United States, who is also head of state as well as just being a candidate, to say these things is dangerous and irresponsible. There is no evidence out there of anything other than customary election irregularities. These things happen. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Whether there is systematic fraud, as the president contends, is going to depend on him presenting evidence in court, as to which now we don't think there is any.
Is there anyone in the White House who would potentially say to the president, once the vote totals come in, look, this isn't worth the fight. You've got to go gracefully? What about Mike Pence, for example?
Well, I think Mike Pence might be the only person who can say that and not get fired in mid-sentence. I don't expect the president to go graciously. I think that's not within his power to do. And I will say, I spent 31 days in Florida in the year 2000.
Of course, yeah.
Working for George W. Bush against the contest filed by Democratic candidate Al Gore. And in 2000, you could look through every element of the American media. Nobody said Al Gore was doing anything irresponsible. Candidates have a right to use the statutory remedies that are available to them. The question, though, like anything else you go to court over, is can you prove your case? It's one thing for a politician to indulge in irresponsible rhetoric. It's quite something else for his lawyers to have to go into court with nothing other than the president's rhetoric to back them up.
Do you have any sympathy for Trump here? Because, of course, he's come so much closer than any of the pundits, any member of the political classes, any of the pollsters predicted. And as a result of many of their predictions, you could argue that some people may have been put off voting for Trump because they thought, well, this is a foregone conclusion. It's going to be a landslide for Biden.
Yeah, well, look, you can make that argument both ways. You could say a lot of people thought it was a done deal for Biden. Why bother to go vote for him? So, I mean, how the influence works, I don't know. But this is how the First Amendment governs our society. It's up to individuals to make the decision whether they're going to cast their votes or not. And this is something Trump could have been better prepared for. His own internal polls and some pollsters did say he would come very close. So he obviously now is vindicated in that sense. I think the American polling industry and the American political commentariat class have once again been embarrassed beyond belief. I've been saying the pollsters should all be exiled to Antarctica for about 5 years. Let them do survey research among the penguins. When they get that right, let them come back to America.
Well, they're hopeless. They're absolutely hopeless, and they should hang their heads in shame because actually, they if it was possible, they got it more wrong than they did in 2016. But look, you have said Trump doesn't have the character or finesse to run for president. I've been reading a lot of analysis from connected folk in the Republican Party who say, look, Trump will be our best bet for winning back the White House in 2024 if he wants to run again. Do you see him potentially doing that?
No, I think there's almost no chance of that. Only one president in history has ever been defeated for re-election and then come back and actually won. And that was Grover Cleveland over 120 years ago. So that's not much of a precedent. The president will be 4 years older 4 years from now. He's already laughed at Joe Biden, who is older than Trump is at this point. I just don't see it. I think the Republican Party is going to have a very important conversation post-election about how we go forward if Trump is defeated. But I don't think there's any factual basis to believe that Trump will be the dominant figure. Once he's out of the Oval Office, the dynamic will change considerably.
So what do you think he will do, Ambassador Bolton? Because, of course, you've known the man for a long time. He loved the fact that you were a strong performer on Fox News. He liked you as a media personality. He has more recently seemed to harbour ambitions to launch his own media empire. Do you see him heading down that route?
Well, look, he's not confiding his strategy in me these days, so I'm not sure I have a lot to add on that point. But yes, I've certainly heard that speculation that he might buy an existing network or piece a network together. I think some of his supporters have talked about it. I think he will continue to speak out. I think he'll continue to tweet. But again, once he's no longer in the Oval Office, it's a very, very different position.
I wanted to ask you about this very disrespectful interview by the BBC, which is obviously, I'm sure you know, fundamentally a left-wing liberal news operation, and the Newsnight programme, an interviewer called Emily Maitlis, who accused you of covering up a criminal act during an interview. Are you intending on complaining to the BBC or considering legal remedies after that interview?
No, complaining to the BBC is a waste of time, and I don't mind hard questions like that. What I mind is people being impolite and interrupting me. If you're going to invite a guest on your show and ask them questions, let them answer the question. That's all the mercy I ask for from the media.
Well, look, it's been great to have you today. You can come back anytime. That is John Bolton, former National Security Advisor to Donald Trump, author of the book The Room Where It Happened. So